Welcome back to the 99, where we're focused on brewing a better competitive commander. I'm your host, Patrick Marlette, back with another cold brew. And this time around, we're going to be discussing Magda, Brazen Outlaw. She was just announced last night. I love spoilers / teaser season. I don't think it's officially begun, but we're getting a lot of interesting cards in from Kaldheim, and this latest one is a bomb. So let's talk about her for a second. Magda, Brazen Outlaw, 1 generic, 1 red. She should be on your screen now. I'm looking at the altar art. There's an original one here, but we're gonna stay with the altar because it looks fantastic. They both look good, mind you. Legendary creature, dwarf berserker, 2/1 body. Other dwarves you control get +1/+0. Okay, so there's minor dwarf synergy here. I don't recommend you go out buying your dwarven recruiters just yet, but whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token. It doesn't matter how that dwarf becomes tapped, they just need to become tapped. That's excellent, really good value. Almost like having Captain Lannery, one of my favorite legendaries, and unfortunately, she's trumped hard here. Lastly, we have the final ability, sacrifice 5 treasures. Search your library for an artifact or dragon card, like the one in that picture. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Hold up. I get to put that onto the battlefield? Now, this is where my brew brain began thinking hardcore on this. As soon as I saw this, I conceptualized a lot of different methods of play for Magda. The first thing I thought of was, well, that one card everyone's playing in cEDH right now, Dockside Extortionist. I don't care that it's a goblin pirate. It makes a shit ton of treasures. And guess what? Whether those treasures are tapped, untapped, I can sacrifice 5 of them to pull something from my deck. So what do we grab? Now, initially my thought was you can drop Dockside Extortionist into a Cloudstone Curio, bouncing Magda, and then of course popping off, provided you have at least 5 treasures to begin with. You know, 2 for Magda, 2 for Dockside, and 1 for you. Make infinite treasures, and then just go to Combo Town. And that could be Hellkite Charger, any number of dragon outlets. But then I thought one better. I just brewed a Rograk and Tymna list recently, and that list operated with transmogrifiers. Similar to polymorphs, Red's seeing a lot more of them now, and Red has a ton of them. So my thought here is, instead of relying on our Imperial Recruiter, Goblin Matron, Goblin Recruiter, and don't even say the Mog Catcher, those 3, to get Dockside, because that's the priority for Magda, why don't we use Luca Coppercoat Outcast? Transmogrify, Reality Scramble, Shifting Shadows, how about Divergent Transformations? Well, that is 2 more effects over the 3 that get in the way of our list, and we're only technically running these for our Dockside anyhow, right? So to build this as competitively as possible and make the combo happen as consistently as possible, I'm going to be relying on this particular build of mine using transmogrifiers and of course talking through all the strategies I've devised for Magda in just a few. Now I'm going to stop here to make sure that everyone's getting this. Check my screen off to the side here. Hi everyone. Thank you. I'll consider the marriage proposal. I'll have to break that to my partner here though. Dwarf for love. All right, so can everyone hear me all right? Looks like we've checked out. Sound good? Excellent. All right, so as more of you pour in, if anyone asks questions about this particular build, feel free to fill them in as to any ideas I've proposed off the bat. And do mind you that this is a cEDH channel foremost, so if this deck doesn't check out, it might likely, it might not be featured on the channel ultimately, but we're gonna try to get it there, and we're gonna do that today and hopefully wrap it up another 2 hours. But before we jump into the discussion of Magda, I do want to let you know a word from our sponsor. You all, thank you so much for your support. All the Patreon members that check in every week to check out these videos, thank you so much for your support. This is unlike a regularly scheduled video every Sunday, so there won't be a shout out. However, I will still do an end roll for all current and previous Patreon members. Thank you for supporting the channel. And of course, if you don't want to do Patreon, I understand there is a way to one-time support these live streams. If you want to help out the channel, you can do a super chat. That's why that's there. Obviously, that benefits me by keeping the lights on in here, paying off my credit card. And of course, with that, I'm also going to do, just to make it fun, if anyone sends me a super, and I'll try to look out for them, I will do famous movie quotes from a particular franchise. And because this is a new thing, let's just say Star Wars. I'll do movie quotes from Star Wars. I'll have to pull that up. But if you send a super, expect a movie quote. Now, so far as other logistics are concerned, last time we did cold brew, it was just a test to see how the software worked on my computer and, of course, how my internet held up. It seems to check out. I like it, so this is something I want to continue. However, I'm not going to make it a part of the regularly scheduled programming. As I mentioned, every Sunday. Don't worry, we're still going to do an episode this Sunday. And in particular, I was editing it out as, prior to recording this. It's going to be the Brew Wars, so hang tight for that. It should be a fun one. It's been good so far. And in hindsight, when you watch these videos, or at least when I watch them, I can... so many plays I would change. At any rate, other than that, I also want to keep this under 2 hours because I do have a lot of work today, but I did want to hop on top of this with all of you. I already started brewing a lot of this prior, and I figure every time there's a new legendary, I always go through, a thought process on how to make it competitive, whether it's competent enough, whether it's consistent enough, and the cold brew is going to be a great way for us to share those thoughts. So that's what I'm going to do from here on out. If the timing of this episode doesn't work for you, of course, it's going to be recorded and left on YouTube. However, I'd love to get everyone's thoughts in a comment after the video as to what time works best for you. Mornings usually work best for me. I live on the East Coast, so noon Eastern Standard Time is great. I can still do all my morning stuff and then get to this after the fact. All right, so with that, again, let me know what works best for you. I'd love to find out. Let's try to keep this under 2 hours. Go. Magda, to expedite the process here, I've taken it upon myself to go ahead and record some of the cards I think are going to synergy well with this list. And of course, unlike what we did with Belby, where I went over the win cons after the fact, I've actually inserted my win cons now. So you're going to see a lot of odd cards on here to begin with. As well as some synergies and effects that we're going to look into while we are researching Magda-specific cards. Now, what's beautiful about, and we'll start with the transmogrifier. What's beautiful about the transmogrifiers in this list is that there are a lot of them, and they're very easy to cast. As a mono red list, we've got plenty of ways to do this. We're going to cast them into Dockside, and when Dockside drops, ideally we'll be producing enough mana to pop off with one of two combo lines. I've already discussed Cloudstone Curio. That was the first thought I had. It's still very good for this list, and I think that's what we're going to go with, at least for one particular strategy. And there's the Curio right there, in case you don't know what it does. Whenever a non-artifact permanent comes into play under your control, you may return another permanent you control that shares a permanent type with it to its owner's hand. So there's more utility there than just the combo, but predominantly Dockside drops. We're going to go ahead, use Magda to fetch the Cloudstone Curio, and then we're going to use a token generator and or a way to create tokens on the spot to get a creature to enter the battlefield to bounce Dockside that first time. That's my initial thought, because we don't want to transmogrify Magda necessarily. We will need a lot of mana to recast her, should that be the case. And while we're testing this at the end of the video, we're going to have to assume a few things regarding artifacts and enchantments on the field, because it does vary from game to game. But generally speaking, I'd say if you are last on play and it's gone to rotation, there's generally 2 to 3 artifacts or enchantments on the field, and that's being modest, right? Particularly for cEDH. But it all depends on your meta, right? Maybe you're facing a lot of green decks, maybe they're relying on dorks, and you don't see them. You just have like a Utopia Sprawl and that person's Sylvan Library. So there's a lot to take into account when using Dockside as a core part of your strategy. But what's beautiful about this next combo card outside of Cloudstone is that it doesn't matter how many treasures we're generating. We just need enough to drop it initially, and then we don't even rely on Dockside after the fact. So I'd actually like to thank Will Hunt for pointing this out to me. We spoke a lot last night over on the Discord. So he's SPO over there. I hope you don't mind me pointing that out, but he's an excellent brew baby, honorary brew baby. And he's always up to discuss strategy on the Discord. And of course, all of you are welcome to join the Discord and talk shop over there with me as well. There's, of course, several channels for all of that, but we were discussing this particular commander in the latest releases page, obviously. But Clock of Omens, why in particular this is good, is that the thought was, well, if you can make Magda an artifact, you can go ahead with Clock of Omens, tap 2 untapped artifacts to untap Magda. And if Magda happens to be an artifact, she can be one of the 2 tapping. And when she does so, the untap triggers on the stack. She'll create a treasure that enters untapped. She'll go ahead and untap, and lo and behold, we have 2 artifacts again to repeat this process. Now, why is this good? You're making infinite tapped treasures. Well, Magda doesn't give a damn whether the treasure is tapped or untapped to search cards from our library. Right? Dockside what? Who needs Dockside? We have Clock of Omens and Ashnod's Transmogrifier. Or Ashnod's Transmogrant, excuse me. This is the Antiquities copy, but I'll go ahead and read it off now. I have a box of cards that I've always wanted to play and just seemingly had no utility. So I love it when an old card I really love finds a home in a new list. So this is 1 generic mono artifact. Target non-artifact creature gains +1/+1 and is now considered an artifact creature, though it retains its original color. Discard Ashnod's Transmogrant after its use. Okay, very confusing. Basically, you sack this to turn a creature into an artifact. So once doing so, Magda from here on out until she's removed happens to be an artifact, and this will allow us to do the trick. And I'm just going to go ahead and highlight all the other ones. Liquid Metal Coating was the first one I went to, and I thought of Ashnod's Transmogrant. This is also a really cool multi-utility. So it's 2 CMC, artifact, tap. Target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to other types until end of turn. This doesn't say artifact you control. So I can go ahead and manipulate this to turn anything into an artifact. And guess what red has out the wazoo? Artifact removal. I can remove anything now. I can remove that land. Oh, you need that Underground Sea for the blue for your Thassa's Oracle? Bam, shoot it. Anything that I want to remove, I'll use this. It seems niche, and it is, but there is multi-utility to this one. So just remember that if you do happen to play this list, and you do happen to build it the way I'll be suggesting today. And of course, you know, there's other ways to build this list, but this is a better one. Silver Skin Armor is the last one I'm going to refer to. I will talk about one I've sidelined. Silver Skin Armor is 2 generic artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and is an artifact in addition to its other types. Equip cost of 2. Now, unfortunately, this is the most cost prohibitive one, but it's still quite good. Am I going to suggest you run any of the effects that cheat on equipment for you? No, you really don't need to do that. You are generating treasures turn after turn. The goal, I think, predominantly is going to rush Magda out and then use Magda's treasures to, you know, turbo out certain effects. I say turbo out. She's really only producing 1 a turn, but there are sub-themes we're going to go over first before we get to the core strategy. Now, Silver Skin Armor is the last one that makes a creature an artifact that's in the list. However, you could run Thran Forge, and it should just barely be on the screen for you. 3 generic for an artifact, 2 to activate. Until the end of turn, target non-artifact creature gets +1/+0 and is an artifact creature. I don't know if that's been errata to just be creatures you control. However, in much the same way as Liquid Metal Coating, you can use Thran Forge. It's extremely cost prohibitive. Now, we do need redundancies in red to make it pop off, right? One of the best competitive mono red lists is Godo, because Godo finds, it tutors the solution you need, and it also happens to be your outlet. Now, in much the same way, Magda is our outlet, and she's also a tutor, although she requires more work than Godo, but she also happens to be 2 CMC. So in my opinion, instead of running this as a redundancy, I think the 3 is enough, and we might even cut the equipment. Because Magda is allowed to tutor for a solution for you, let's just say your Dockside made 10 mana, you can go ahead and get Ashnod's and then get the clock and start going off automatically, right? You don't necessarily need that much redundancy because she's finding the artifacts for you. So do bear that in mind when we're looking over any sort of redundant effects. And because we're building this as a transmogrify line, we're able to incorporate a lot of interaction because much of the chaff that would be creatures in our list is reduced down to just Dockside Extortionist. So we're going to be filling up a lot of our list with fast mana, ramp, and a lot of removal. You know, we do want some artifacts to stay just for our own artifact count. However, any threats that oppose us, we're going to try to remove. So I think with that, there's one final thing I want to discuss. Whether we actually go this route, I don't know. But lastly, last night, I was thinking to myself, it's unique that she creates tokens when she taps. And in particular, the tokens happen to be ramp. So with dual casting, one generic, one red, enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature has red, tap, copy, target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Now, we want Magda to tap. We don't necessarily want her to attack every turn. If we can give her more utilities that allow her to tap, all the better. And you might have noticed a handful of curios off to the side here that allow her to tap. This one's unique in that we can use this to manipulate untap effects to get her to untap and pop off again with dual casting, because again, the treasures can be tapped for the red to do this. So what if we had something like Bond of Passion? Now, mind you, this is all sidelined for now. Aside from dual casting, we will use dual casting in the list because it's just good value. But Bond of Passion, 4 generic, double red, sorcery, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Magda, untap that creature. It gains haste until the end of turn. Bond of Passion deals 2 damage to any other target. Now, unfortunately, there isn't a lower CMC effect like this. Mind you, we're ramping out like crazy, so maybe this is more doable than I'm imagining. But if you happen to cast Bond of Passion and targeting an aura-equipped Magda, well, then you can tap her to copy Bond of Passion. You have 2 Bonds of Passion now. The other copy is going to target Magda. Remember, we've also created a treasure in doing so. So once that resolves, we've done 2 damage to one target, a player, untap Magda. Oh, use the treasure to copy it again. We can do this infinitely. She's very unique in the fact that she can do this. I can't think of many commanders that can manipulate dual casting in such a way. So that's unique, but also you can use this with Claim the Firstborn, card I talked about in Hidden Gems Red. Claim the Firstborn in Altar of the Brood. You're having infinite treasures enter the battlefield. That's infinite mill. So there's strategy there. I don't know if we're going to have the space to incorporate it, but I do think it's something we should at least talk about. Humor. I think that having the 2 combo lines is best. Now, you're asking yourself, you do all of this, but what do you work this into? So in my opinion, it's cute to have, the dragons come out and finish off the game. There's plenty of dragon-based outlets, but there's plenty of artifact-based solutions that this list is going to run. We're going to run a lot of stacks. And if we happen to incorporate things like smokestacks, or we happen to incorporate things like Possessed Portal, we can just shut down a game. I'm going to add Trinity Sphere, Sphere of Resistance, Smokestacks, Possessed Portal. I'm going to put down every single stacks piece I own. And then what do you do on your turn? You remove Magda? Okay. I think the worst thing that can happen potentially is a Cyclonic Rift if they have it in hand, but maybe you drop your kill switch and you tap down all their artifacts. Then what do they do? We're going to look at the stacks package to see how we can conclude a game. But obviously, if you drop Smokestacks early and you just have Magda, and we'll take a gander at this really quick because this is ultimately the route I'm going. Again, this isn't the right or wrong route, but Smokestacks, this has been errated. Replace the word during with at the beginning of. So for 4 generic artifacts, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a soot counter on Smokestacks. Also, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, the player sacrifices a permanent for each soot counter on Smokestacks. Now we're, again, sub-strategy, generating a lot of tokens. Magda generates tokens herself. These triggers can be layered either way, mind you. So first in, last out, we'll go ahead and just as it's read, we're going to do the top trigger and then the bottom trigger. I'll sacrifice nothing, I'll add a sit counter. Obviously, this happens the turn after you've laid down Smokestacks, but we're going to try to ramp out to these pieces. If Magda happens to be out, her alone is going to generate the treasure needed to sacrifice for Smokestack, right? But also we should have Goblin, ways to create Goblin tokens recurringly. And we'll look into different token generators that we can use and manipulate with Smokestacks. But that is one strategy to end the game, just people don't have permanents. Same thing with Possessed Portal. Ultimately, this is going to be the end game. We're going to close out the game with this card. And it's very easy to swap in with a Trash for Treasure or Duretti. Again, a lot of stuff to look over, but this is the route I'm thinking of taking this. And I think it's the right route. So let's go and look at our land base really quick as well. This is where we're going to start the list and end it, just like we did Belby. Ancient Tomb, fairly obvious. Actually, zoom out for this. Arid Mesa, we want our fetch lands. We want our fetch lands. Specifically, one reason. Barbarian Ring, Threshold, Kill a Thing. Cool. Bloodstained Mire, City of Traders. We want all of the fast mana and ramp we can get. We're even using Gemstone Caverns here. Crystal Vein, double generic, perfect. Lay down that Trinity Sphere 1 turn early. Dwarven Mine. So we are trying to set the pace of the game with a variety of stacks. And this is going to allow us to hit that threshold of mountains to hopefully pop off with Dwarven Mine. Now, mind you, we're also doing a Transmogrify build. So With Dwarven Mine, it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or other mountains. So this will be your 4th land, technically, when it hits to do the trigger. When Dwarven Mine enters the battlefield untapped, create a 1/1 dwarf creature token. Dwarf, it can tap for treasures, so already good, but it also happens to be a creature, so we can use that to get the dockside from our list when we're ready. And any of our fetch lands can grab this because it happens to be a mountain, so important to note. We have Gemstone Caverns here to quickly get Magda out. Homeward Path may or may not remain in the list. It's only important because Magda is the core part of the strategy. Anytime your commander happens to be the core part of the strategy, I recommend you pack Homeward Path, particularly if the list happens to be monocolored, because we can incorporate this and get away with the generic. Particularly if we're relying on sax pieces, the generic will go into that. Does this mean you run Expedition Map? Maybe, because Care Keep is also really good. So this is going to generate little Rograx for you. Care Keep, if you've never seen it, it does generic, but you can also tap it for generic and a red to put a 0/1 red kobold creature named Kobolds of Care Keep onto the battlefield. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they printed out copies of Kobolds of Care Keep, but they're playable cards, not necessarily tokens. I'll probably wind up, if I build this list, buying those for this land, but it's not necessary. And lastly, War Room, you always need card draw, right? So I think the first thing we want to look at here, because we want to rush out Dockside to, hasten this plan, right? We just want the treasures to sack. I think what we're going to do is look up things that generate creature tokens. But while I set that up, let me go ahead and look over the chat, see if I missed anything. Give me 1 second. Create. So all we need to know is that we want to create tokens, right? In red. I don't care how we do that. Do not care how we do that. And we'll go ahead and look through some of these. I already know of a handful in my head I want to add, but we'll go ahead and look at this together. Give me 1 second. Static Orb keeps it tapped and nip dip down. Trader's Greed, yep, is another way to do dual casting. The thing is, with Trader's Greed, you don't need Magda, right? You don't need Magda for that. That's already a combo with dual casting. If you're generating infinite mana with treasures and able to tutor for any artifact, could you use Prosh to fling? If Prosh was allowed into this list, sure. Yes, Tanglewar is very nutty here. You know what's also nutty here? Orb of Dreams? So hear me out. Because the number one strategy right now in at least the proactive list is to play out an Ad Nauseam or Appearance of the Abyss or a large Necropotence, whatever. And then Necropotence, not so much unless you're playing Zur, but basically it's the Ad Naus package. And you're going to rush out all the fast mana in your list. You just pack it with all the 0 CMC rocks. I love Root Maze for my green list because it allows me to make that shit come into play tapped. Same with our Manglehorn, right? Orb of Dreams makes it so that every permanent enters the battlefield tapped. Now, yes, this hinders us. Yes, it does. But remember how I said Magda doesn't care if the treasures are tapped or not? If I have enough mana to push a Dockside onto the field and make 10 treasures, I'm good. I'm good. So 5 for the clock, 5 for the Ashnods, and that's 1 CMC to do. So I need 11. No, I don't need 11 mana total. I need 3 mana total to make that happen. And then I can start tapping and untapping with the clock. No, I'm sorry. It puts it on the field. I only need 10. I just need to search those 2 things. Yeah. Okay. So you see why it doesn't matter if the treasures enter the battlefield tapped. We might run Orb of Dreams to slow the game down. Might. Anyways. Sorry. Good talk in the chat. Good thoughts. So we want to generate tokens. And we can't use creatures. So I've already hit the lands we want, right? So we can skip all of that. We are going to use things like Kuldrotha Rebirth. Now, Kuldrotha Rebirth is excellent in this list because we're going to be laying down a lot of artifacts. So we'll use that, generate 3 goblins. Cool. And of course, something like Kuldrotha Rebirth, it's not always going to be immediately playable, but there's going to be instances where you can just pop your mana vault at this point. Like, you don't need that. If you do need the mana later, you can switch it out with a Duretti or whatever you have on the field, or in your hand, rather. Which would just be trash for treasure, I think. So Kuldrotha Rebirth. And if you also are building your list on Tapped Out, there's one thing your Kuldrotha Rebirth. You're going to need to click this box, skip validation, because Magda isn't officially out yet. You do need to hit that when you're trying to save out, if you also happen to be making a list right now. But you should just be watching. What are you doing? So we got Kuldrotha. That's good. We might even run Perforos Intervention. Deals twice to creature planeswalker, so good threat removal, but for 1 red, we make a 0/1 red elemental token. That sounds good. Again, whether these stay or not, totally subjective, but at least this one's modal. It has potential beyond just the token generation for our transmogrifiers. I love Release the Gremlins. I don't necessarily know if it has a place here, but we are making a lot of mana, technically, right? So I'm running things like Paradise Mantle, I'm running things like Springleaf Drum, which means whenever I tap Magda, I'm producing 2 mana. So it's not difficult to produce mana, provided we have those, and some other utilities that we'll get to. Maybe we'll add Release the Gremlins for now, just as another token generator. I'm going to go ahead and just put in all of the value token generators that are low CMC. So this is really good for removing any threats to us, like a Curse Totem, you know, and then giving us tokens in the aftermath. And they're 2/2s. That's not so bad. Another card I love, Retrofitter Foundry. I don't know if we add Retrofitter, but we can. You know, do we? No, and maybe not yet, but I do love that card. I always play it. If I see that in Cube, I always play it. So Satyr's Cunning, we're going to throw that down for sure. And again, and some of these might not stick, but I do want to at least get this sub-theme underway, and we'll see which ones are most valuable. If we happen to be stacking out the board hard enough, then, of course, we can just rely on the Dwarven Mine. We can just get our Dwarven Mine out for free, right? You just need to crack that fetch land. Let me see here. Any other token generators that are low CMC? You know, I actually have an odd favorite that we'll probably run into in a second. This one's really good, by the way. This is a new one. So we're going to do Dragon Fodder, and we're also going to do Forbidden Friendship. They both generate 2 creatures. It doesn't really matter what type they are. So let's do Forbidden Friendship, Dragon Fodder. And we also obviously want some recurable ones, you know, enchantments that do this. And there's an enchantment that creates goblins on your upkeep. Being in combat, I forget. Don't want that. Although we could run Genesis Chamber, right? So humor me here. Does this help opposing dock sides? Yes. Does it help our dock side? Hell yes. It also gives us tokens. So this is symmetrical. 2 generic, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, if Genesis Chamber is untapped, that creature's controller gets +1, 1/1 colorless Myr artifact creature token. So if you have this out before Magda, you get the Myr, right? And then you have the Myr to transmogrify. Probably not. At least we humored it. Krenko's Command? Shaw. We're also going to look into... maybe we can look into more living weapons because they make the germ token on arrival. Same thing with Mask of Immolation. That's not so bad. And if we do go the infinite token route, if we make infinite mana and we want to finish out the board and our treasures aren't untapped, then we can drop the Mask of Immolation, use our treasures to equip Mask of Immolation to Magda, who happens to be right next to it, and then use the Mask of Immolation to damage any target. Right? We could do that if we just want to conclude the game. There's Mask of Immolation and there's one other, Mortar Pod. I only think we need one. I think we'd rather go for Mortar Pod because Mortar Pod just happens to be too generic. But that's a thought. Let me just sideline the Mortar Pod right now. Because, personally speaking, if you, if you drop a Possessed Portal, I think it's probably good game at that point. And if you have infinite mana and a way to tutor stuff, and all the stuff you're doing is stopping them. Thing is, generally speaking, if you can avoid any unnecessary cards, do, right? And if we can just pull every single hate piece from our list and just consistently pass and add smokestacks counters and make people destroy all their permanents, of course they're going to stop playing. It's hard to get past a Possessed Portal if you don't have removal for it, you know? But we still may need a good finisher, and if we happen to go the route with just the Cloudstone Curio and the Dockside Extortionist, then we'll probably rely on Mortar Pod, right? Again, same thing as Mask of Immolation. Let's see here. There should be only so many more creatures. Whenever Servo Schematics enters the battlefield or is put into a graveyard, create a Servo. Yeah, this is really good. So this is really good because we can swap out the Servo Schematic or destroy it with the Kuldotha Rebirth, right? So this might be one of the better ones, actually. However, it's weird, the timing of it, because we can generate 2 tokens elsewise. But this is nice if there's a creature, you know, like a board wipe. Someone does a Pyroclasm. I feel like it's rare to see those these days, but if the board does get wiped, and Magda's a 2-1, I believe. Yeah, a 2-1. This is going to allow us to break this and have a creature still to bring out Dockside Extortionist. So maybe this is better, secretly better, because we only need the one creature. Spawning Breath is the one I'm talking about. I'm going to add this. It's not amazing, but you can pop a Dork, pop a Dark Confidant, pop a Notion Thief, pop? Name that quote. So yeah, we're gonna add Spawning Breath, one of my favorites. Basically, you zap something for 1 and you make a Eldrazi spawn. Measly Eldrazi spawn, but it's a favorite. We might be nearing the end of this. Again, I don't want to go past 2 necessarily. I'll go ahead and take a look at our... Yes, so I want to go... Joshua Miller suggested something really interesting here. Looter Scooter. So there are only so many keywords that allow you to tap down permanents. We've got things like Improvise, Convoke, Conspire, Crew. Almost all C words. Let's go ahead and look at Crew really quick. I think that... Let's look at Crew, and then let's look at Draw Utilities. I think these are all the token utilities we want. I'm sorry. You know what? There is one more. I just want the enchantment that makes... The enchantment that makes goblins. And then I'm going to look at planeswalkers separately, right? Because we're likely going to fill up a majority of our list with different utilities, and planeswalkers are going to be a part of that package. But namely, I do want Goblin Assault. I do want Goblin Assault. That's the only... Maybe Goblin Slide. Let's do Goblin Assault and Goblin Slide, because they're both 2 generic and 1 red. And again, we'll just see how many of these we keep and how many of these we actually remove. We're probably going to wind up removing a lot. What usually happens with this deck construction process is you add a lot more than you actually need. And that's okay. So I want to take a gander at crewing, because there aren't that many. I think there's maybe like 1 Convoke spell in red. Because we want to tap down Magda without putting her in harm's way, right? Again, she's only a 2-1. So it might come to the... I want to add Treasure Map too. Sorry. We should add Treasure Map. We'll also look at Treasure Generation. I lied to you. Okay, so what we're going to do is look up Treasure Generation, then we'll look up Crew, right? Because Treasure is really the core part of this strategy. You don't need Dockside to make this work. It's just how you turbo the package, okay? So you don't need Dockside to make this work, but let's see if we can't manipulate any other utilities to get treasures. And this is all organized by CMC already. Treasure Map's fantastic, just value. We might need the Scry manipulation, and of course, if you don't know what Treasure Map is, it's a card from Ixalan. There's a really cool promo of it too. You scry 1 for paying 1. Put a landmark counter on Treasure Map. Then if there are 3 or more landmark counters on it, remove those counters, transform Treasure Map, and create 3 colorless treasure artifact tokens with tap. We know what treasures do. You make 3 of them. You make 3 of them automatically. So that's great. And then Treasure Cove on the back. We had our first real snowfall here in New York City. So if you hear like snowplows and stuff in the background, if there's like a huge ruckus, don't worry. Everything's okay. Snowplows. You get to sacrifice treasures to draw cards on the back end. It becomes a land. A land that taps for generic, but that's okay. It's a decent utility. Again, not necessarily something I'm going to try to, ramp out initially. We're definitely going to shoot for a stacks piece first, right, to hold the board down. But this isn't bad. We're going to want that. Prying Blade. So whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, see now this is tricky because, again, we don't really want to run Magda into anyone. And there's usually at least one person we can attack, but probably going to avoid that. And I do like Pirate's Pillage. Pirate's Pillage is great because it's 3 generic, 1 red. This is something I used in Ward for a long time, and I took out of it. So now I have for Magda. If I happen to make her in paper. I might actually make Magda in paper, but additional cost to play this card, discard a card. When you do so, you draw 2 cards and you create 2 treasures. So you essentially pay for 2 of its costs with the treasures, but we're gonna tutor with the treasures. That's better. That's so much better. So Pirate's Pillage is something we want, along with some of the other rummage effects. And we'll go ahead and look over the rummage effects when we're going over the draw category, which will be after crewing. Now there's Shiny Impetus and Trove of Temptation. Those are really the last ones we might want to consider. Shiny Impetus is unique in that it gives Magda +2/+2. However, it forces her to attack each combat. You make 2 treasures this way. I can't help but feel something like the Smuggler's Copter is ultimately better, or anything else that's going to allow us to tap her. So let's refrain from Shiny Impetus and let's refrain from Trove of Temptation, because to be honest with you, I would rather each opponent prioritize attacking the people that use life as a resource. So not me. Hit the Adnos player. Hit the Peter player, please. You can also attach Impetus to someone else's creature. I don't care to give them. You create a treasure token. I'm still not high on Shiny Impetus. Okay. Yeah, we'll put it in. We'll put it in. Because it's not difficult to cast. You own it, right? So you create the treasure. They have to attack. Maybe they force a bad block. At least you remove something. I don't know. I feel like if you do that, they'll smell what you're doing, right? But they can't stop it necessarily. Obviously, there needs to be a good enough creature on the field for you to want to equip someone else's creature, or enchant rather someone else's creature with Shiny Impetus. You're not going to put it on a dork because obviously they can just tap the dork in advance. And then they're fine. And usually that's what's out, those earlier turns. Ideally someone's commander with that. But let's go ahead and we'll add that for now. I'm not going to sideline it straight at it. But you do have to make a lot of assumptions with a card like that. So we know for a fact that we're always going to have a creature with 2 power, so we can look at anything with a crew value of 2, and this allows you to tap that creature at any moment to make said artifact vehicle a creature vehicle. Or rather, maybe it replaces vehicle. That doesn't matter. You are essentially getting to do something with an artifact, so these are things you can tutor for. Likely not, but Smuggler's Copter is the big one, because this allows you to draw, and it also has evasion. So great way to set up a block, great way to make an attack. We're going to add Smuggler's Copter. It's a favorite. And it's a goodie. Okay, we're chugging along here. 40 minutes in. I feel good. I feel like I can crank this out with decent time. I really need to get to editing today, so this is something I wanted to get out of the way, though. Daredevil Dragster. Attacks or blocks this combat. Velocity counter with 2 Attacks or blocks this combat. That's kind of cool. I don't know. I don't know if Daredevil Dragster really makes the cut. At the end of combat, you just need 2 velocity counters. You need to do this twice. Are you guys high on the Daredevil Dragster? Right? Yeah, Mobile Garrison's great. Ooh, Mobile Garrison's really great. Hold up. Tap any number of target creatures when it attacks. Untap. Man, that would be great. Imagine going infinite with something like this. You can't. But let's add the Mobile Garrison. Let's add the Mobile Garrison and let's add the Dragster. Again, Lord knows if we keep them, but Daredevil Dragster. And the Mobile Garrison. So what's cool about Garrison, though, is that untap is pretty legitimate because you can potentially make more treasures on that turn. If you had a way... this is too much work. Like, you can do extra combat stuff, make mana. Nah. We're not trying to do that. I think that's really it for usable crewing vehicles. I don't want to go into the 4 category, right? So we've looked up token generators. We've looked up a decent way to tap out our stuff. And let's just look at Convoke really quick. I'll humor it. This is another good way to tap Magda. Okay, there's more than I thought. Target creature gets +1 until end of turn first strike. So you can just Convoke Magda to play for this and make a treasure. So it's just a free treasure, but it's not very good. It's instant speed, so it's actually a really interesting combat trick. She becomes a 3/1, first strike, kill something, make a treasure off turn. I don't hate Crowd's Favor. I'm pretty certain it's going to be removed, but let me just go ahead and add Crowd's Favor. Again, we just want ways to tap Magda. We want treasures quickly. And it doesn't matter when you convoke a creature, it doesn't matter if they're summoning sick, right? So we can just do that for a treasure. Choose a creature type. Creature didn't know. Don't really care about that. 4 damage to target creature or player. That is 4 CMC for that spell. That's too much. Too much. Mind you, if we're making a lot of tokens, maybe Stoke the Flames is viable, but I'm not interested. Okay, so what we want to look for now is draw, right? There's a lot of things we need to put into this list. So before we go over the draw, Tome of Legends is already in, and I'll tell you what this one does. It's a favorite of mine. 2 generic. Whenever you cast your commander or whenever your commander attacks, it gets a tome counter or page counter. When it enters the battlefield, it gets a page counter. You can pay 1, tap it to draw a card. When Magda taps, she makes the treasure to tap the thing to draw the card. Whenever she attacks, you get the idea. Tome of Legends is really great for this list. It was practically made for Magda, so we're going to use that. And just because this is getting full of cards, let me go ahead and save this out, continue. I want to add draw utilities, but before we take a gander at the draw utilities and the interaction and the stacks package, there's a lot we need to cover. What I want to do first is just add all of the fast mana we need, right? So, Mana Crypt, Lotus Petal, name them in the comments section. What are all the cards? Jeweled Lotus, Chrome Mox. Yeah, I got you, Otter. Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond, LED. I'm gonna avoid LED for now, but I hear you. I'm gonna avoid LED for now. Mox Diamond, Grim Monolith. I think we even go for Grim Monolith here. Yes, Arcane Signet. Yes, Felwar Stone. Yes, Mind Stone. Yes, Mind Stone for sure. Mind Stone. The draw, again, super relevant. I think that's 2 words. Okay. So I didn't add Felwar yet. We can add Felwar. We can add Felwar Stone. I'm trying to keep the rocks at 2 CMC and under, right? Did I do Soul Ring? Did not do Soul Ring. Y'all missed it. How can you make me miss Soul Ring? Okay. No, you said it. Springleaf Drum is in already. Jeweled Amulet, we could. Thought Vessel, we could. I feel like we're ultimately going to have to cut out some of these. And I think Jeweled and Thought Vessel might not make the cut. I think that Thought Vessel more over Jeweled. Jeweled Amulet's great because you can make a turn 3 play, right? And if your turn 3 play is a Trinity Sphere, good on you. But it's an odd piggy bank. I'm not sure it's for this list. Paradise Mantle's already in. Anton, you're late to the party. Dockside's already in. Cloudstone's already in. I practically invented the combo. I hope everyone thought that when they saw it. I'm like, Dockside. We gotta use Dockside. Mox Amber is good. You know what? I like Mox Amber here because we're prioritizing her hard. And it's free mana. I like it here. Paradise Mantle is in. Paradise Mantle is in. And Amber. With that, let's go ahead and look at our draw effects. I think we covered all our bases there, right? Do we use baubles? Do you use baubles? I might use Conjurer's Bauble. And I'll tell you why. We might use Conjurer's Bauble. Okay. Conjurer's Bauble. Tap it, sacrifice Conjurer's Bauble. Put up to one target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library, draw a card. Why is this valuable? 1, it replaces itself. 2, there's not a lot of recovery methods in red. We need Underworld Breach. Not a lot of recovery methods in red. You can switch things out again with Dreddy. Trash for Treasure, we'll add those in as well. But if you happen to fail on a combo line and Clock of Omens gets like shunned, it's in your grave now, and that's arguably the better combo line to attack with, you might want to Conjurer's Bubble that to the bottom of your deck, and you don't give a damn where it is. So long as it's in your library, you are able to tutor it again, provided you have a sufficient amount of treasures. Which might make you think of adding like Twin Flame or Heat Shimmer for the Dockside, but we can talk about that. I will add Conjurer's Bubble. I like it a lot. I think for the most part, it's going to be a hinky recovery tool, but it'll probably get sidelined. We can also use something like Codex Shredder, right? Do you all like Codex Shredder? We're going to go down the list, so we're going to manually go down the list. But yeah, something like Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Misfortune, sure. No, Captain Lannery Storm is not in the list. Backtrack a little bit. This is a Transmogrify list. This is a Transmogrify list. We don't give a shit about any other creature. You know why? Dockside's the most important one. I'm not going to run anything else as a substitute. All in on Dockside and all in on Magda with Clock of Omens. If you don't know the combo, maybe someone in comments can tell you. So, or you can just watch this back again. I would love that. We do want Faithless Looting, right? Maybe even like a Burning Inquiry for Disruption. Is that too much? Is that too rude? I actually really like this card. I value this one highly. Particularly when people keep, our starting hand could be any number of things. And it's okay. But there are other lists that mull down to 6, mull down to 5. You're going to see in our Brew Wars. You have to mull aggressively in cEDH to get the perfect starting hand. And a Burning Inquiry off turn 1 for a list that's just trying to play rocks and stacks pieces, we're likely going to run into another one. Maybe we add Burning Inquiry just as a way to muck up hands, right? Oh, but yes, Wheel of Fortune and Wheel of Misfortune, I think they're staples in red. We need to determine whether that is of benefit for us, because oftentimes a wheel is far better for the proactive list. It's far better. If I Wheel of, especially if I'm not on the play, but if I Wheel of Fortune and this guy just dropped all of his fast mana and is primed and ready to go off with 3 cards in hand, wheeling them is really beneficial. Wheels are double-edged swords, so if the list requires it, and I don't think we're playing fast enough to where it needs it, I usually omit it. As a matter of fact, I have 2 Wheel of Fortunes I don't even play anymore. There's no reason to play them. Even in my proactive list, I don't run a wheel. I don't like giving people the advantage. It seems odd. However, you can add Wheel of Fortune to this list, provided you would like it. Now, there's something better than Epiphany Storm, although some of you might have noted that I want to grab. Magmatic Insight we're going to use. Oh, you know what else we're going to use? Because we're setting the pace of the game, because we're trying to go slow, let's use Tectonic Reformation. Now, if you don't know what this is, basically every land card in your hand, I think it's 2 CMC enchantment, every land card in your hand has cycling 1 red. So basically, at a certain point, you're going to want to just get rid of that stuff to find the solutions you need. And we're going to try to keep our land count around 30, 31 with MDFCs. So we'll probably add Shattering Spree. Not Shattering Spree. Shatter, Skull, Smashing. You know, there's something someone mentioned in that Hidden Gems Red video a little while back as a favorite card of theirs. Now, moreover, any list is this valuable because we're going to pack this with instants and sorceries that matter, particularly Reality Scramble, Transmogrify, Divergent Transformations. We want those to go off. This replaces itself. It could just be used on mass artifact removal. Specifically, we want it for those 3 cards. Is it good enough? If getting a Dockside out is important to you, then yeah, I would say it is a potential main board for the list. Not that there's a sideboard in Commander. This is the better one. So Prophetic Ravings. 1 red enchant creature. Enchanted creature has tap, discard a card, draw a card. You become Anya Falconwrath. Yeah, we'll do that. I don't want to swing with Magda. And if anyone's swinging at you, it's just to get Tim to draw. But, you know, block it with a Goblin. Block it with a Goblin. Let's add that for sure. And there's a few more draw utilities. Obviously, we could add something like Sensei's Divining Top for the card quality, which we might need. Sensei's Divining Top. And I don't always recommend Sensei's Divining Top, but if you're going mid-range, which this strategy likely is, again, you're relying on Dockside to pop off and hit a threshold of treasures, so you definitely want to get the game going at a slower rate. Something like Sensei's is going to really help you get the solutions you need when you need them. Winds of Change is another great way to disrupt a hand, right? It's gone up in value recently. I don't think it's great, and we're going to avoid it. We may even, because our strategy is so, like Overmaster, we're running that because it's important we make these spells go off. We might even run Burnout on top of our Red Elemental Blast, on top of our Pyroblast. I'm not high on this card, but majority of the interaction in cEDH is blue, so it does have targets. And mind you, you just need to target an instant spell. It doesn't need to be blue. If it happens to be blue, it's countered. So you still get to draw a card. You still get to cantrip. It's still not that good. We can run Cathartic Reunion. We can run Wild Guess. Let me just add these easy ones in. We're gonna run a majority of the Rummage effects for now. We'll see if we don't need them. There's not a lot of great recurring draw in red. There's also Tormenting Voice. We've done Pirate's Pillage, right? The one that makes treasures. And let's just see if there's anything else we really liked. Draw 4 cards, put them in your hand, discard 3 cards. These effects, like the Control the Court and the other one, probably avoid those. We are just looking at draw utilities. Which Scepter? Are we talking about the one that people go infinite with? Or are we talking about... Well, they both go infinite, don't they? You don't mean Staff of Domination. You actually mean the one that people attach Dramatic Reversal to. What is a Scepter? Isochron Scepter. Lord. Do we want that? Maybe? Maybe? Fire Prophecy is kind of cool. Especially if you have the Treasure Threshold and you just want to cheat out the Possessed Portal. You can go ahead and bin the artifact that's in your hand to your deck and then bring it out with Magda. So maybe Fire Prophecy is a potential utility for cheating out the artifacts that get caught in your hand, right? That's not bad. Endless Atlas might be good here. This one, right? 3 or more lands with the same name, draw a card. I really hate ever having to include something like this, but we might. I'm going to avoid it for now, but we might. Maze Mind Tome is nice. We've got the Maze... we've got the Mind Stone. We don't have Maze Mind Tome. Not a huge fan. And we got the Smuggler's Copter already. Thrill of Possibility, I think I've already added. I lied to you. These are the effects we want. These are the effects we want. Yes, Inventor's Fair is a good idea so far as lands are concerned. Do I think we get there? Do I think we get there? Maybe. We'll add that, right? We'll add that. Tormenting Voice already done. This one already done. Yep, all of these. And we're in the 3 CMC range, and this is where I'm going to move us away from this. Okay, so we've got that. Let's go ahead. We've done our fast mana. Let's get our rituals out of the way now. So we have Rite of Flame. We've got Desperate Ritual. We've got Desperate Ritual. We got Pyretic Ritual. Okay. We've got Seething Song. Oh my god, Jessica's Will. Yeah. We're going to use Jessica's Will. We want it. We want it bad. Oh, you guys want it bad. Yeah, I see that. Sorry for the lack of sleep. I also had a lack of sleep for much the same reason. I was just up looking up strategies for this particular card. There's a lot to unpack with Magda. Do I think she's going to be excellent in cEDH? She has the potential to be very consistent provided you have the right hands, and the strategy is really fun and unique. It's also tutor on a 2 CMC body. So there's a lot there. I think she's got a whole lot of potential. Was that all of the rituals? The ones that sack a creature like Infernal Plunge? No, I didn't add Infernal Plunge yet, but you're right. Infernal Plunge is good. Infernal Plunge is good. No, we didn't add any tutors yet. We can add, of course we can add Gamble. That's really the only tutor, other than our fetches. There's the new Pyre of Heroes, but there's no way to use that. Imperial Recruiter. This is a Transmogrify build, so we can't have any other creatures. The only one is Dockside. The WinCon. Who needs a WinCon? A Bag of Holding? Nope. No. Oh, Transmo. Yes. Transmo indeed. Let's go ahead and take a look at our utility Planeswalkers. I'm also going to add Trash for Treasure. You can see we're already over our count here. That's okay. Trash for Treasure. I'm going to go ahead and look up Planeswalkers, though, see what we can do in that regard. Ideally, things that generate tokens for us, because we need the bodies, and ideally 3 CMC or under, but I will make exemptions for very valuable 4 CMC Planeswalkers. Now, I like Chandra, Acolyte of Flame, a lot. However, her -2 is really what makes her special, but it only hits converted mana cost of 3 or less. So none of our Transmogrifiers are in that category, and those are arguably the most important instants or sorceries. You can manipulate her to reuse some of your rummage effects, reuse some of your rituals. She also makes the elementals. So let's just add Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. I like her a lot. I like her a whole lot. Yes, which is the one? Yes, he makes tokens. He's trash. Tybalt is trash. We're not going to use him. Let's see here. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. So much value. Not for this list. Duretti, Scrap Savant is one we will use. Again, I don't know if Duretti sticks. There's a lot to add to the board here. But he is very good, mind you. Karn the Great Creator, yes. Yes. I really want a Null Rod in this list, so yeah. Karn the Great Creator. We're definitely going to add him. New Tybalt from Kaldheim? Oh, yeah, that would be nice. Luca, Copper Coat is already in. Yes, Luca is in for its negative ability for the Transmogrify. Right, so we did that. You can run Koth's Magic Hammer. We are mono red. This is actually really good ramp for the list, because we need to power out spells. Even if we just power out Possessed Portal, right? If you're just, if you're just checking in, This is a stacks dependent list, and it's what it's going to do is ultimately get all of our stacks elements on the board and then pass. Possess Portal Smokestack, burn them out, right? So we're going to incorporate a lot of stacks to hinder the board, and we have to go over the stacks package in a second. But Koth of the Hammer, 2 generic double red. Let's add Koth. I think Koth has potential because 1, it makes a mountain a creature, smack face, switch it out. 2, it's really good ramp for mono red. So we'll see if it's of value. Right there, we're going to stop. Now, the last things we need to get to are interaction, and we also need to look at our stacks package. So let's just go ahead and add Red Elemental Blast, right? Feel confident in saying that. Red Elemental Blast. We're also going to add Pyroblast. We're also going to add a Ricochet Trap. You can see where this deck is going. We're also going to add Deflecting Swat. I think someone mentioned it earlier. Yes, Deflecting Swat. No, not Palm. We don't want that. And let me see here. There are some other like redirects, Bolt Bend and such. Do we add Chalice of the Void? No. Unfortunately, that's really it for red counter. And again, we can add Burnout. We can add Burnout. This list is going to be short. I should restate that. Okay. We can add Burnout if we really want. I don't think we need it that desperately, but I wish there were better redirects. I know the redirects, but maybe I can be convinced if I look at them again. Right? So before we add Burnout, reroute, no. Sideswipe, only Arcane, Shunts, 3 CMC. Dang, that sucks. All right, so let me just save this out really quick, and then let's go ahead and add our stacks, and then we're going to also add removal, like artifact removal, specifically things like Mog Salvage and the likes. Just add that now while I'm thinking about it. So we want to play with Trinisphere. We want to play with Sphere of Resistance. We want to play with Tangle Wire. Is that 2? We want to play with Damping Sphere. Defense Grid's interesting. I don't know if we want that. Thorn of Amethyst is unique. It's like non-creatures. Godpharaoh Statue, not for this list. Belby, yes. I'm hearing Idol of Oblivion. Okay. If this is over 3 CMC, it's going to have to be very good. Yeah. Oh, you know, I forgot this came out. Shit, you guys are right. That's nice. As a draw card. Yeah, I like this. Idol of Oblivion. Very easy to do. You're making treasures, right? If you're just jumping in, we're making Magda. So yeah, we want Idol of Oblivion. I totally forgot that card existed. Did I go over it? I must have gone over it. Static Orb and Winter Orb. So Static Orb. Untap 2 permanents. Okay, so players can't untap more than 1 artifact during their untapped step. And then there's Static Orb, right? So we're trying to shut down other people's fast mana because we make mana, right? We make treasures. We don't want to utilize the treasures necessarily. We want to use them for the tutoring. Static Orb is, I believe, 3 CMC as well. And yeah, as long as Static Orb is untapped, players can untap more than 2 permanents during their untap step. So this is actually a nice slowdown piece. This is actually going to be very good once we've established like a win condition. So we want Static Orb. Winter Orb is tricky. Again, like we have the way of producing manas. Hope she sticks. You know what is Lightning Greaves? The tricky bit with Lightning Greaves, though, is like if we're trying to do the Clock of Omens win, we need another creature to equip Lightning Greaves to because it gives it Shroud, right? I do want to offer her some protection, so maybe this feels weird, but maybe Veilstone Amulet, and we can... Right, so whenever you play a creature, whenever you cast a spell, creatures you control can't be the targets of spells or abilities your opponents control. This is only vital because Magda... We can't have her getting removed in situations. This is tricky. We want instant speed spells, a lot of instant speed spells to make this viable. I don't think so. I did add Winter Orb and Static Orb, though. Yes, I agree with those. Gentoo Stakes and Meekstone, you know, things like that. If you don't know what Gentoo Stakes is, this makes it so that one power creatures can't untap. So this is affecting dorks. And what's fortunate is that Magda's a 2/1, so she can tap and untap and do all the fun stuff. It also provides you a way to get in on someone if they've just got dorks out. Gentoo Stakes is cute. I don't know if it's great. And obviously Meekstone, I think it's 1 CMC. Much the same thing, except 3 power and up. Right? So if you go against a lot of Tymna Chroms or whatever in Chroms or anything with 3 power or greater, this is going to be very valid. Let's add the Meekstone and let's add the... Gentoo Stakes, just because who the hell knows? You know? Who knows? I don't know. Yeah, Fork and Reverberate. Look at you. Thank you. I'm so excited. Those are my favorite red cards. Fork and Reverberate. We're bouncing back and forth here between stacks and interactions. So if there's any stacks or interaction you like, feel free to shout them out. We've got a lot in here now, but I'll go ahead and take a gander. Springleaf Drum's already in. Scooter's in. Jirapur Ether Grid, yes. Jirapur Ether Grid is a combo piece in KCI builds, and if I'm not mistaken, it allows you to tap 2 untapped artifacts to do damage to a singular target. So, Ether Grid, I don't know if that's... It's a little costly for me. It does function as an outlet, right? Provided you make infinite treasures, you can just tap them, right? I'm iffy. We've got the Mortar Pod, right? Although Ether Grid works at instant speed, we're not trying to win at instant speed. Mirage Mirror is an odd utility. Boil and Boiling Seas. You know, I really love... when you hurt the blue player that bad and you're not ready to pop off, it can really bite you in the ass when someone just wins over top of you. So destroying all the islands usually not good. Blood Moon, speaking my language, yes. Blood Moon is going to go in. Get those Double Master extended foil versions. Hell yeah, they're so cheap. Blood Moon is so damn good. We're going to look at some damaging spells in a second. We can do... Magus of the Moon can't go in. I mean, Possibility Storm. Nope. Let's look at damage. Let's just go ahead and take a gander at damage. Right, there's a lot in this range, and we're going to narrow this to sorcery and instant. Again, this is a transmogrify build, so we can't have any permanents that are creatures, and I'm only really interested in using instants or sorceries in this regard, and there's a ton. But let's see if there's any utilities that pop up that are seemingly useful for this list. Things that have recursion, like flashback, yada yada. Those utilities. And anything that says as an additional cost sacrifice, because we're going to make artifacts and such, so those wouldn't be so bad. I know for a fact that we're going to want to use a braid. Snowplows. Snowplows. Don't worry about me. We're going to want to use a braid. We're also going to want to use the cycling... The one that cycles... Damn it. What is its name? Linvala and Curse Totem really screw with this list. So I'm going to fast track to just the card I'm thinking about, because it's going to kill me if I don't remember it. Shattered Sails? Shattered Shattered sails. Scattered sails? Shredded sails. Shredded sails. Shredded sails. Yes. Linvala, Keeper of Silence, isn't frequently played, but when she is, we're dead. So something that does 4 damage to flyers, good. Something that also destroys an artifact, good. Something that cycles, good. We want that. I jumped a lot. So let's go back. We can add things like bolts, but I'm not high on them. I just want to look into artifact destruction and damage here. You know, we can get Galvanic Blast to pop off in this list, so maybe Galvanic Blast, but otherwise it's just 2. The thing is 2 is going to be enough to stop the opposition agent. 2 is going to be enough to stop the Hull Breachers of the world, the Aven Mind Sensors. So maybe Galvanic Blast is good, and on the top end, you know, we can pop off for a little bit more damage. I like Firebolt a lot just because of the flashback, but it's a little high costed for this list, and we're trying to use our mana elsewise. And I'll go ahead and take a gander at some of your suggestions down here. Bolt to stop the Draneth. I'm hoping we can power her out before the Draneth, but I think you're right. I think you're right. I think we're going to... Okay, so Shatter Skull smashing is in, no matter what. There's another MDFC that pings, but we're not too concerned about that. We also want to run... I'll do Lightning Bolt. I don't know how highly I'm going to favor this. But you're right. 3 damage is really the key number, because we do get also stopped by Draneth Magistrate. Personally, I don't play with that many players that run white. So Draneth Magistrate is usually not a threat. So if in your own meta it is, then yeah, go for the spells that do 3 damage to target creature. I think that makes sense. Right? And this is good because we already have this in the list, but it makes a token and it damages out a creature or planeswalker. So we can get that there, right? Reckless Rage. We like Reckless Rage. 2 damage to target creature you control. I don't know about that. Lightning Axe is good, you say. Did I pass it? Rolling Earthquake is good, but we want to cast that before we go off. Do we want to run Clasms at all? That's the next question. I'm seeing Sweltering Sun pop up a lot. Or it's someone repeating Sweltering Sun. I don't know if I like that. I agree that it's a good cycler. 3 is high, though. 3 is a little high. How did I forget this? Wait. To target creature player, the damage dealt this way would be put in... Never mind. I thought it generated tokens. I think I'm thinking of a different sun. There's another 1 CMC one that does 4 damage, if I'm not mistaken. And we're trying to find that, because I want to ping the crap out of some creatures. As it braids in, Cinderclasm. Cinderclasm, you say. Let me do this. Attempt with Vengeance. Flame Slash. I think that's the one I'm... Oh, that I would have passed it. We want to remove threats. Sorcery Speed. And that's really good damage. I was thinking about this, though. Like, we want low CMC kill things on the board, because ultimately if our secondary plan for getting the treasures out is tapping her for attacks. So this is a good way to remove threats. Let's just add that. It's not expected at all, I don't think. And it might get sidelined. So let's go ahead and look at some artifact destruction now. I think that's probably enough. We've got a good diversity of modal spells that deal damage and offer artifact destruction. Is there anyone that's really... Thunderclap can be free. Byforce and Vandal Blast. So I might actually add Shattering Spree so far as artifact destruction is concerned. We're in mono red, so Replicate is not difficult. And in my opinion, this is a better version of Byforce, because you can't stop all of these. You could. Please waste all your countermeasures for this, but we'll add Shattering Spree. And mind you, we do want to curb the amount of destruction we lay on artifacts. You know, like things like Meltdown are a favorite of mine. I've been using this for years. It's never failed me. It's amazing. But we might want to avoid that here. Blazing Volley, did I... Look at this. Each creature your opponents control, that's okay. I don't know how many creatures we're actually going to kill with that. We're going to avoid any bodies. Chaos Warp? We can run Chaos Warp. Sure. We can run Chaos Warp. And Red Cap Melee is being shouted at the rooftops. So Red Cap Melee, is that how you spell melee? So what's interesting about this is if non-red permanents dealt damage, this way you have to sacrifice a land. That is a lot. So it's instant speed. It's a little bit better than our Flame Slash in that sense, but Flame Slash at sorcery speed is probably just fine. I think it's just fine for us. Red Cap Melee, not so much. You know, we don't want to destroy a land. We can also talk about destroying other people's lands, but I'm not sure we need to do that. You know, someone mentioned Ruination earlier. There's a ton of land destruction in red. We could. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save this out. Let's just see where we're at. We've laid down a lot of cards. And I've got roughly 40 minutes on the clock for myself here. Now we need to cut this list down. And as a refresher for anyone jumping into the channel right now, I think there might be some general confusion as to the route we're taking with this. But when you look at the type category for creatures, you'll notice that there's just one. This is a transmogrify list. So what we want to do is ramp out hard, play all of our stacks, screw the board up, Dockside Extortionist, and play for Cloudstone Curio or Clock of Omens. It really depends on the board state. And in doing so, create infinite treasures or enough treasures with the Clock of Omen combo that I talked about. They're both 3-card combos. I suggest you just reverse this video for that. With those 2 3-card combos, we can lay down every stacks piece we own and really muck the board up and pass, right? That's the goal. That is the goal. Kill switch is something I'm considering, mind you. It's an oddity. I don't think it's great here, but what's important about kill switch is the fact that it taps down their artifacts, right? We do this last. We would do this last, or we would do this first, provided we had the mana, whilst tutoring for, stacks pieces. Because this means that, again, the biggest thing we can worry about if we drop the Possessed Portal, we go off, right, is the concern of getting like a Cyclonic Rift. That's really the big concern. So Kill Switch is going to help us take down the mana that they have present and ensure that they don't get the Psych Rift. Right? That's really the biggest threat. Thank God Upheaval is banned. So we've got a lot of things to cut, and I think where we're going to start is with Sorcery. Let's just go from Sorcery all the way back. I'll try to sketch your comments really quick. Fiery Confluence is very expensive, isn't it? 5. I've got Mog Salvage in there. Cleansing Wildfire, nope, don't have that yet. But let's take care of some of these cards right now. So Reality Scramble, Transmogrify, Pirate's Pillage, Essentials, Jessica's Will, Trash for Treasure. We could also talk about whether we add artifact lands, but that really stunts us provided someone is on a Null Rod, someone is on a Collector Oof, right? And there's a lot of people that do that. So maybe we avoid the artifact lands. It looks like we're going to have enough artifacts as it is. But Trash for Treasure is good. Cathartic Reunion's good. Dragon Fodder, Forbidden Friendship, Krenko's Command, a lot of token generators. I think we can narrow this down a little bit. I'll take out a wild guess, and I'll take out the... let's keep Forbidden Friendship. I like that one. Doesn't matter whether they're goblins or not. Right? Forbidden Friendship gives you a human and a dino. Sick. Oh, and the dinosaurs got haste. Love it. Yeah. Wild Guess is the lesser of our rummage effects there. Burning Inquiry is a great way to disrupt that starting hand, particularly if you just blast off you just blast off with a ton of shit and you do Burning Inquiry, like you've laid out a couple of rocks. You're like, go, see what happens. You can really mess up someone else's hand, so it's a great way to kill a starter. Faithless Looting is good for recurring value. Flame Slash, creature removal. Again, we're probably going to have to nix some creature removal. Gamble, necessary. Infernal Plunge is subjective, but again, we may need the mana for the ramp. Kuldotha Rebirth, my lord. A great token generator for us. Magmatic Insight, good way to blow through those lands. Overmaster, I'm going to sideline for now. I do agree that it's essential. In the same way a Boseiju might be essential to ensure that our Transmogrify, Reality Scramble, all that stuff goes off, but I'm not that high on it. I could be wrong. I'm going to tool this list quite a bit. What I'm trying to do is narrow this down so that we can test it and at least get an idea of how well it plays, how well or, not well it plays. Release the Gremlins. I like Release the Gremlins here. I only like Release the Gremlins here because it destroys artifacts and creates tokens for you. Is that worth the cost? Probably. I'll leave it for now. Satyr's Cunning is a very cheap way to generate a token and pop off on that same turn. And Shattering Spree. I think those are all good. So this is the tricky bit. We need Luca Coppercoat Outcast. I love Karn here. Whether we have the means to protect any of these Planeswalkers is questionable. So I think that genuinely, even though we're using an artifact-based strategy, and this is a great way to bring back an artifact from our grave, let's just say that we had Possessed Portal in hand and we rummage it into our graveyard. We can use Duretti to bring it back with, it doesn't matter, any artifacts. Duretti's still worth it. Duretti is still worth it. Kothis, not worth it, and Chandra's not worth it. Okay, that's it. I have a Shatterskull Smashing in here. So we're technically at 32 lands. Our curve looks low, right? So we can probably rely on having 30 lands because we're on Tectonic Reformation, right? We can probably rely on having just 30 lands with the MDFC. Or maybe we can do 31 with the MDFC. Let's cut a land, though. Tectonic Reformation should be a good draw utility. We'll see. Inventor's Fair is out. And why? Dockside's priority number 1. Magda's ability to tutor up artifacts is number 2. Magda's actually arguably number 1. I don't think we need the additional tutor in our land base. I do like it, though. We are going to be at that threshold. Maybe it will make sense for the list, and we'll go back to it. But I do think that this is the proper land base, the one I've set up prior. So let's just stick with that. Now, we're down to 23 cards to cut. That is tricky. So we need Divergent Transformation, Ricochet Trap, yes. Deflecting Swat, Chaos Warp, Salvage, yes. All the ramp. Is Seething Song too much on the high end? Not if we're trying to ramp out one of these Planeswalkers, right? So let's just see what we cut here. This is tricky. We need to cut a lot. We need to cut a whole lot. Those token generators are very valuable to me. So, Spawning Breath. We want to keep the rituals. Crowd's Favor. This is a good way to generate tokens. We don't need that. Lightning Bolt. To be honest with you, just from my meta, I prefer Galvanic Blast here because we will be at the threshold for the Metalcraft. I think that's what it's called, Metalcraft. And I don't face down that many Drannith Magistrates. I know it sounds crazy, but people don't really play white with me. I don't know why. It's usually just me playing white. Blood Moon, yes. Goblin Slide, Goblin Assault, yes. Shifting Shadows is slower than I want it to be. But it's important. So look, if we have the means to protect it, Shifting Shadows can be a reliable way to get Dockside Extortionist from out of our list, right? So Shifting Shadows is the same concept as Luca and all the other cards. It's just another option. It's very cheap too. I would never recommend you shift Shadows onto Magda. You can, provided you're going to make enough treasures to recast her and pop off. But with one of our tokens, we can, at the beginning of our upkeep, destroy creature, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card, put it onto the battlefield with Shifting Shadows attached. That's irrelevant. We're going to try to win when we do that. It's slow, but I like it. It's slow, but I like it. How about that? Now, mind you, Goblin Slide, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay one. Do we like Goblin Slide over Goblin Assault? We're going to have to come down to one of these. This is a no questions asked. You get the creature, though you have to attack it. We can just do this main phase 1, provided we're able to go off. I think Goblin Slide is the lesser in this situation. I'm still iffy on Shiny Impetus. I think that between 16 and 22, and it's probably can be condensed even more, something like dual casting, we're not going to go for that side strategy I mentioned off the bat of this video. Although unique to Magda, I think we can skip the dual casting line of play. Prophetic Ravings is still a great way to go through the list with Magda and generate treasure tokens. So we're going to keep that, and we'll stick with that. So we've got Dockside Extortionist, obviously. Now is the time to condense our artifact base. We are looking to pull out Dockside Extortionist because we can generate a win one of two ways with Dockside Extortionist. And this is far better than running Imperial Recruiter, Goblin Matron, all that dumb shit. Because when you actually do the math, you cast the Imperial Recruiter for 3, you cast Dockside Extortionist, that was 5 mana. You're broadcasting the effect that you're gonna be casting Dockside, because obviously the list is trying to go towards Dockside. And you're still spending 5 mana, when I can spend 4 mana with an element of surprise. You stop this, or it happens. Instead of the 2-step process, we're cutting all the chaff, and we're giving ourselves far more options, because there are more ways to scramble, transmogrify, Luca out Dockside than there are creature tutors in red. So this offers better consistency. It's the last time I'm going to explain that. I'm sorry for you who've been watching this from the very beginning, but that's my mindset. I don't know if I was clear enough with Belbay, the route I was going with Belbay, but she's boss. She's very good now. And I'm hoping that we can get Magda there. So we need to cut some shit. Clock of Omens is a combo piece. We need to keep that. Possessed Portal might be overkill, but I like it. I want a Possessed Portal list. Daredevil Dragster, done. Mobile Garrison. Yes, this is a token generator. Can you crew it? Can you just crew it again? What are the rulings on crew? Does anyone know? So if we do Mobile Garrison and we attack and we untap her, can we just crew it again at the end of the turn, or does it lose the ability to crew? Let me know. Thanks for sharing the deck list. Thank you for sharing the deck list. You can spam crew. Yeah, then hell yeah. Mobile Garrison sounds really good, right? That's 2 treasures in 1 turn, and that's 2 of the 5 requisite, right? So Damping Sphere, we want all these things. Man, I'm going to kick the Static Orb in favor of the Tangle Wire. I think endgame, that's a better card. Trinity Sphere, still good. Let's see what we need to cut. We need to cut 15 more things, gang. Woo! Arcane Signet, yes. Damping Sphere, yes. Kick that. Kick that. Idol of Oblivion, yes. Gentoo Stakes. Gentoo Stakes and the Meek Stone. Not enough for me. Not the kind of stacks I want. I like Servo Schematic a lot because of the ways we can manipulate Servo Schematic. And we've got plenty of ways to destroy it, I think. With our own artifact destruction. Hell, I'll replicate my shit to blow up a Servo Schematic. Yes. Okay. I think Servo Schematic sticks so far as a token generator is concerned. It's important we have a body to transmogrify, right? So we will get rid of the Satyr's Cunning here. On that note, I think it's more important to get the Servo Schematic. And we might even get rid of the Forbidden Friendship. What it might boil down to is relying on our lands for those tokens, right? It's more important to me that we set the pace of this game, right, than the early game token generation. Because this is a Transmogrify list, but mind you, we might just have a hand with Dockside. So just cast it. I think that's more important. Now, I added Conjurer's Bubble, didn't I? So Conjurer's Bubble now looks like save Dockside Extortionist from my graveyard, provided you still want to get the treasure, pump, mid to late game. This is a good way to reuse your Transmogrify. I do think we might cut it still. Some folks were mentioning Defense Grid. I think if we've got like the Trini Sphere down, I think if we've got the Sphere of Resistance down, we will likely be safe to get the Dockside down as well. Because we do need to make cuts, I'll take that out for now. But we're still looking at the twos. I think that Silver Skin Armor... I'm going to be honest with you. If I drop Dockside, what I'm going to go for is anything but Silver Skin Armor and Clock of Omens. If I have 10 treasures on the board, and not just by Dockside alone, I've been amassing treasures this whole time, but if I drop Dockside and I have the requisite of 10 treasures, I'm going to search up Clock of Omens and likely Liquid Metal Coating. So that means, so far as redundancies for the main combo line are concerned, we have Ashnod's Transmogrant and Liquid Metal Coating with Clock of Omens. Alongside Magda, we make infinite treasures / pull every single artifact from our list. With Cloudstone Curio and Dockside, we're able to make infinite treasures with any creatures that we've generated through token manipulation, which might mean that Goblin Slide is better. Just to give us the creature when we need it for the Cloudstone line, and also to give us the creature when we need it to Transmogrify. I think Goblin Slide is the better effect. It sounds odd, but I think it's the better effect. So that's where I'm falling on redundancies here. I could even kick Ashnod's Transmogrant because Liquid Metal Coating, that's the one. Am I wrong? Like, that's the better turn into artifact thing. Okay, so we've got Winter Orb. Winter Orb is going to be key when we've laid down all of our hate. I don't want them untapping more than 2 lands. You don't need infinite mana to win the game. Don't need infinite mana. Again, I'm just going to suggest anyone who's jumping in late to rewatch. I feel like I've discussed the strategy like entirely too many times for you have been watching it for too long. So I'm sorry about that. It's tough to make these final cuts. I'm going to be honest with you. I personally don't know what I want to remove from here. We do need the draw. Smuggler's Copter is a great way to tap her. I think that Tome of Legends might be the one we remove. That's hard draw as opposed to a rummage. I am favoring the crew mechanic, though. I'm definitely favoring the crew mechanic. It's tricky. I think the Mox Amber is nice, but it's not as effective as our other range of fast mana here. We want to do the thing quickly, right? So we're going to remove that. I think I'm going to cut one more artifact, and then we'll revisit our other effects. We need the Winter Orb, though. Treasure Map is good, but it's slow. Treasure Map is so slow. Thank you. Treasure Map is a little slow. I think that we can get rid of Treasure Map. Am I wrong? Is Treasure Map more valuable than Sensei's Divining Top in this list? Probably, right? Take it out anyways. Okay, so here's where we're at. 28 artifacts, 1 creature, 5 cards to kick, 7 enchantments. Tectonic Reformation feels like good draw, but if you're not getting the lands, it still has cycling. Man, if we needed to make cuts, I'm valuing the artifacts more over anything else, so this can go, which makes me really rethink the Treasure Map, man. The Treasure Map seems good. This is good recursion for the list. We've got a lot of permanents, so I don't know how many Breach cards we're going to have But Breach is one of the only ways to recover a Dockside, provided we need it. I think all of these are necessary. I think all of these are necessary. We can probably remove some removal at this point. Among these, Shredded Sails is arguably the weakest. So it goes. Now we still can cut this list down to, because we took off Tectonic Reformation, so maybe we narrow down this list land count by one more. We'll set it to 30 with our MDFC. Our curve is low anyways, and it's just a bunch of rocks and rituals, so I feel okay with that. I feel good with these Planeswalkers. I think we keep it there. I did not forget Mox Opal. In the same vein as Mox Amber, it's a little slow. We only need to make so much mana to get the ball rolling, and then Magda makes mana herself, so how much more ramp do we need beyond that? But do bear in mind we are trying to keep the treasures around for her tutor effect, because we want to drop bombs with Magda. If it turns out we need more fast mana off the bat, then sure, you know, Mox Opal can go in there. Generally speaking, Mox Opal is one of those filler cards for the Adnos line, for the PETA line. You all know it, I hope. Okay, so we need to remove 2 more cards, and I think they're going to come from our sorceries here. Honor Worn Shaku, sure, we can definitely... Mox Opal is the prettiest Mox, though. You are right. You are right about... I can't argue it. Got 2 more cards. Okay. Kranko's Command. Kranko's Command. Do we run Expedition Map now? I'm not even joking. Do we run Expedition Map? Oh, isn't there an extended one? Do we get the pretty Expedition Map so we can hit our Care Keep? I don't think so. I don't think so. I like Kuldotha Rebirth. I hate to do it, release the goblins. Man, okay, so we need to cut 1 more card. We need to cut 1 more card here. Yeah, Expedition Map's probably not worth it. It usually never is. But we're cutting out so many token generators, it's really putting us in a precarious spot. All right, I'm going to cut 1 more. I think what I'm going to cut, just to get into testing here, is going to be one of the Burning Inquiry or Faithless Looting. Faithless Looting. All right, that's it. I agree with the Infernal Plunge. I agree. We can see about that. It was between... Okay, so... It was between that ramp effect or one of these card quality cards. I think ultimately the Infernal Plunge is not going to have enough valid targets to really pop off the way we want it to with all of the removal. All right, I'm talking myself back into it. Yeah, let's get rid of the Infernal Plunge. You're right. Because in an ideal world, you know, we'd have better token generators. But we can keep the... Well, that's a real good question. What do we put back in? We've got a lot of removal. I just took out Faithless. Burning. So Burning is interesting to me because it really messes up some starting hands, especially if you're on the play. It really mucks up plays. So I don't hate it. I don't know what I want to put in. I want it to be on the low end, no matter what it is. Let's just drop Faithless in again for the card quality. Okay. And let's test this. Let's see what it does. Let's see what it does. Okay. So I don't know how it's going to fill in for Magda. It might not. Right? Okay. So what we're going to do for Magda is just a custom token. Can I just put Magda? Oh, you know what? I didn't even look to see if we want to keep this hand. So she's 2 CMC. We know that already. This isn't an awful hand. What are we doing here? Not enough, in my opinion. So let's just... Well, this isn't a bad hand. Okay, so I'm going to do a Homeward Path, Mox Diamond, Mountain, Magda. Right? Gilded Draker now. And again, just for reference, this is Magda. Okay, so we know she's on board now. 2-1. Okay, let's go from there. She's likely going to crew that Copter just because. This wasn't a great hand for us because, unfortunately, she doesn't... In an ideal world, we would be ramping out into some form of stacks right now, right? In my opinion. So let's just see if we can't get there. So I'm going to tap her, create a treasure. We're going to discard a card and draw a card via Prophetic Ravings, right? Just see what we get. We're going to discard in this instance the Mountain. That might bite us in the ass. We'll see. Tangle Wire. Tangle Wire. Tangle Wire. Tangle Wire. Okay. Turn 2. Yay. We did the stacks thing. Okay, so now we really want to get... I mean, you can even crew the vehicle and transmogrify that, right? We do lack draw. We've got Rummage, which is not draw. That's why I want to get rid of the Faithless Looting here, but with the Seething Song, I feel like we're going to be okay stepping into our next turn. Okay, there you go. So there's some draw right there. Kept Tome for a reason. So how do we want to do this? Tangle Wire trigger. We're going to remove a Fade counter, 1. Ugh. Ugh. That feels bad, doesn't it? That's okay. So this turn, we're going to just make Treasure. And we can play out the Smuggler's Copter now if we want. Or we could play out the Tome of Legends. And to be honest with you, we might need the Tome right now. And the Tome's got a counter on it. Let's go from there. I'm going to play this out just a little bit more. Let's see here. So for the Tome of Legends, we've got 1 counter on it. Let's just go ahead and draw a card. It would be great to... It'd be really great to have a land. So we've got 2 red. We've got 2 red floating from that. This is counterless. We can drop the Winter Orb. I mean, in the state we're in, sure. Sure. Have I been paying to do Prophetic Ravings? I don't think so. We've dropped the Winter Orb. We need treasures. We're going to hold off on doing the discard and draw just to see what happens. I think at this state, we can go ahead. Let's just say this is off turn. That's what we do. Make a treasure off turn. And then coming to our turn, this has 1 more counter on it. We are getting to untap one of our lands here. And the land we're going to untap is that one. This is going to tap down. This is the last time it's around. We're going to play a land. We really need to hit some gas. Otherwise, we're probably going to refresh from here. I'll play this out through turn 6 and see what happens, though. Really want treasures. That's what I'm wanting right now. So let's pretend there's a valid attack for her. We'll swing in. We'll get another treasure token. At this point, I'm assuming that our treasure count on dockside would be very high. We have a counter on this. We'll probably wait for it. I think the best thing to do now would just be to drop our Smuggler's Copter. Additional way to tap her. This is going to be great should we top deck. If we top deck Luca or any Transmogrifier at this point, this will be very great for ramping it out. Obviously keeping our treasures. On turn 5, I can only imagine, what I was going to say off the bat here is that turn 1, let's just say that the dockside count is 3. Turn 2, add 2 more. Turn 3, add 1 more. And then just alternate between 2 and 1. That seems fair. There's generally a lot of artifacts and enchantments on the board by turn 5, turn 6. Enough to do the Magda thing? Who knows? So we did that. Cool. Now we can draw off of the Tome of Legends because we swung, but I think we're going to wait. Okay. So I get to untap one of these. Again, Homeward Path is only essential provided we need it. Not going well. This is going to be great for the ramp later. We obviously want treasures. Do we need this? That's something the smuggler can get rid of, the Seething Song at this point with the Mana Crypt. We're only fielding our opponent's docksides at this point, which isn't great. But let's just go ahead, crew that, make another treasure. I think the hand we want to start with is going to have one of our Transmogrifiers and some stacks. So let's go ahead and see some other hands. See what we have. Wow, those are all of the late game things we don't need right now. And no lands, so I can't keep that. I don't know if you all can see these. Well, that's a starting hand with Dockside and nothing else. We'll keep it. Because we're going to get to draw off of the Tome of Legends. I'm going to ignore the health for now. Tome enters the field with a counter on it. I'll go ahead and crack that, draw. No lands. Jeez Louise. You get why I'm keeping this hand, though, I hope. But yeah, no lands. That sucks. That's what we drew into. Obviously, this would be great. Okay. Well, this is better. I don't know what it is with tapped out today. It's either I'm getting like hands with utilities and no lands, or just a lot of lands and a handful of utilities. But this is good. This is playable. So we'll keep the Arid Mesa, obviously, for our Dwarven Mine, right? We've got the land counts to do that. We need to get to turn 4. Let's see if we can do that. So, bam, Smuggler's Copter, bam. Next turn. Oh, yes. More token generation. And this is great. Do we play Magda now? Yes, of course we play Magda now. And so that's our Magda. Oh, I hate that Magda. Let's do, this will be Magda. There she is. Okay, so we'll tap here and here to do that. Why not? Let's just threaten that we have something else to do with our hand. And we'll go ahead and tap here to crew this. We'll swing. With this, I will draw a card, and we're going to discard. Oh, we don't want to discard that. Duretti is pretty pointless at this point. Probably get rid of Duretti, if I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, so with that, we'll take our next turn. Now this is shaping up to be a really solid hand. So with this, we're going to play our other mountain. Obviously, we're saving the Arid Mesa to fetch into a Dwarven Mind. It is going to get the 1/1 body we need. We don't have protection here, but the first thing I want to do is try... Oh, I should make a treasure token, by the way. Someone's probably said that in the chat. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and just tap out to see if we can get Jessica's Will to go off, right? Pretending it's successful, I think the largest hand here might be between 4 and 5. Right? That's fair. 4 and 5. For the sake of discussion, let's just say it's 5. Okay. And we get to do both things because we have our commander. Wow, that's great. Okay. So we've played our land per turn. Might have been advisable to wait on the land. But that's okay, because we want the Cloudstone Curio, and we have 5 mana remaining. Let's drop the Cloudstone. We're not going to play any of the mountains. Always wait on the lands for Jeska's Will, FYI. I think I even said that when I was reviewing the card. So don't do what I did. We're going to make I'm sorry. I'm going to just use these to mark the 2 red we have remaining. They're not treasures. They're not treasures. They're not treasures. Okay, so there's a couple ways we can do this. What did I say? Turn 1, there's 3 treasures. Turn 2, there's 5, so +2. Turn 6, there's +1. So we're at 6 treasures. We're at 6 treasures here. Okay. And that's just, we have to assume a few things for the dockside count here, but here's how we're going to do this. I wish that hand had protection. So we should probably cast Cathartic Reunion to try to find a Pyroblast, a red elemental blast, but you can see how we win here. So let's just pretend we don't get hindered. But let's go ahead and use the 2 red we have floating from Jeska's Will, and we'll go ahead and attempt to cast Luca. How do we do this? Do we accrue this to make a treasure first? Do I have the mana with this? And then 2 treasures, 1 here, right? This is now a creature. So we'll use the -2 to exile. You can't read it, but exile target creature you control, then reveal cards from the top of your library till you find the creature. So we're going to do this, right? I think I had to do that way. But essentially, we're going to go to dockside, and we have a win. Even if we tapped out, we could have left the treasures from, now that I'm doing the math, we could have left the extra treasure we got from crewing the vehicle. It wasn't necessary for this. But technically, you are supposed to do it this way, so I'm going to do it this way. A lot of people flub up the rules here by just looking through their library. That's not necessarily how these cards work. These are going to get like put at the bottom of your library in a random order. For the sake of this, let's just do it. So it enters the battlefield, right? When it ETBs, we are going to do these 2 triggers like such. We'll go ahead and do the Cloudstone and then the Dockside Extortionist. We'll produce, we said 6 treasures, correct? Or 5. At this point, it doesn't matter so long as it's 5. So we'll make the treasures. Let's just have this indicate the treasures we've made, right? We're going to bounce Magda to our hand, cast Magda, make infinite treasures. So that actually worked out. Thank you, Jeska's Will. We need more hands like that. Is that going to happen frequently? I don't know. Why don't we test one more hand? Oh, you're right. We have to exile. We would need to exile for Luca's ability. Because it's 2 CMC creature, we would need to hold, which wouldn't have been bad actually. But for Luca, it has to be a bigger creature. Yeah. Ah, damn. We should get some 1 CMC crew. 1 CMC crew effects. Probably not. So Magda and, oh man, it's always going to have to be a token with Luca. That's no good. It's funny, I'm used to doing this with Timna Rograk, right? So everything's higher than 0 CMC. So with the... We do need to wait for turn 4, don't we? You failed me, Luca. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm just curious as to what our the next card would have been. Wasn't Divergent. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that again. Close. No cigar. So we did need to do this to create... I wonder if there's a way we could have done release the Gremlin to get the Gremlin token prior. And then obviously the Gremlin would go off. Okay. Try it again. Try it Obviously, having that happen on turn 3 would have been great. So the release the Gremlins, bear that in mind. Powerful card for the list. Not powerful enough, though. I do think its dual purpose is nice, but I think something that just generates a token would be better. And while this is refreshing, I'll go over some of the comments. Is Ruby in the list? No. It could be. Let's see here. Okay. No, you're fine. So there's another hand that starts with Dockside. Well, see, what is this? We don't need both of these while we have both of these. Is this a keep? No. Oh my god. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? What are you doing to me, tapped out? Oh, Gremlin, why did you have to be double X? Okay, so this might get cut. What in the hell's with these hands, man? Now, Clock of Omens is great, and it's good that we start with both of our combo pieces off the get-go. We want to cheat this out. We need fast mana. Did I not add all the fast mana? All right, assuming I'm not on the play here. Assuming I'm not on the play. What the fuck? We got to keep that, sadly. Right? Okay. We will need to pop this. Now, there is merit in saving the Scalding Tarn to get the Dwarven Mine, but I don't think we're going to get there this time with that. So we'll do this. Put down Magda. That's Magda. We're going to do Magda this way again. Magda. Well, you know what? Yeah, we'll just keep it Madga instead. Doing one. Okay. Let's do that. And that. And we'll drop the sphere here as well with our Mind Stone. So this is more or less what we're trying to do off the start, but damn our hand. Okay, Crystal Vein. That's going to help. We may just want to use the Mind Stone for a draw here, off turn, ideally. If there's a big enough threat to remove, we'll spend 2 for Flame Slash, excuse me. Pyretic Ritual is pretty useless at this point with Sphere of Resistance, and Mock Salvage is still good off turn, but we'll just use this to draw a card off turn, let's say. Go into our next turn. We're very close with the Mountain count, however, we don't have a Transmogrifier yet. I don't think Sphere is going to be enough to hold the board down, but thank goodness we still have interaction. Let's just pretend that we needed to use this now. And of course, we'll go ahead and use Magda for a treasure. This is assuming we have a valid target. And that's it. That's it for this turn. Okay, so Bloodstained Mire. We've got the Copter now. I don't know how that got over there. Am I? No, this was thrown into play earlier. Okay. Copter. This is discard fodder. Copter's going to be here, here, and here. Right? Tap this, crew this. Draw. We're discarding this. Okay. Off turn, we'll crack this for the Dwarven Mine. Now, it's just assuming that the game went this long. Like I said off the bat, not certain Magda was going to make it, but at least with the Dwarven Mine, we have 2 dwarves. Right? And next turn, after a shuffle, not rolling the dice. Okay, Burning Inquiry. Good, good laugh looking at our 3 cards. So we'll crew here. We'll crew here. We said we can spam crew. I have to look that mechanic up if we're wrong. But it would be nice. So we have the treasures to do a thing. We have the treasures to do a thing. At this point, what is that thing, you ask? Well, it's probably going to be Possessed Portal. Without even attacking yet. Oh no, I lied. We'll keep this off to the side. It's going to be Possessed Portal. Let's just see if we can make something out of this. Well, Braid's good. So we'll get rid of all the treasures. I'll leave them over here. This is the threshold we need. Dwarves are good in this list. Maybe you do. Maybe we should get those goblin recruiters. I'll look at the chat now. Just tuning it. What's strat for the combo? Blah, blah, blah. So basically, when we have the treasures accrued, there's two ways that this can go down. And I'll just lay them out now so we can close out this video with full well knowledge of what's happening. But in an ideal world, with one of our 5 transmogrifiers, we are going to get Dockside Extortionist out on the turn 3, the 4, the 5, the 6. And with that, amass a shit ton of treasures, coupled with the treasures you've been saving up from Magda up to that point. When you do so, there are 2 combo lines. Dockside is needed for one and not for the other. In this instance, I think just going for Possessed Portal and asking, do you have an answer, is the best route. Smokestacks or this is going to be fine, but making sure they can't draw at this point, it's going to cut out everyone who doesn't have a Dark Confidant or people playing for their ad nauseum, or if they have Necropotence on the field and they didn't pop off and they're just using it for value. But Possessed Portal is one of the conditions we're going to get to at the end of this. But essentially, if we have 5 treasures, which is why we really want the Dockside to fast track the treasure count, is to drop, sacrificing 5 treasures, liquid metal coating, make Magda a artifact, then we'll use Clock of Omens with the other 5 treasures, remember 10 cap, and it doesn't all have to be from Magda. You'll tap here and tap here to untap Magda, and in doing so, you make a treasure, right? So you untap Magda, then you'll go ahead and tap 2 artifacts to untap an artifact, make another treasure, so on and so forth. You make infinite treasures this way. You pull out every single stacks piece from your list to include Possessed Portal, Winter Orb, Sphere of Resistance, Trini Sphere. You make it impossible for anyone to play into the board, and they have to start sacrificing things. It's highly unlikely they'll be able to damage you out at this point, and it's likely you weren't attacked during this game. A more casual game, likely, yes, but cEDH, generally people are pointed at the folks that use their life as a resource. So Magda's probably in the clear. If they understand you're not playing Treasonous Ogre, they're probably going to lay off you, right? So basically you do that, and then it's attrition. People should probably quit after they see the 17 stacks pieces, right? You would think. The other way is what we almost illustrated. I was trying to fast track through this, but unfortunately Luca does need to eat a token. Tokens have no CMC, so anything above a token would be a higher converted mana cost. Any other transmogrifier, though, would get Dockside. So when Dockside lands onto a Cloudstone Curio, you bounce Magda, cast Magda, play Dockside. You need to make at least 5 treasures to go infinite on the treasure game. And then the same story. You just play Magda out. Now, mind you, you can add basic win conditions like Grinding Station. You can add Grinding Station and just burn all your treasures to mill everyone. You can add your Mortar Pod so that when you have infinite mana, you can use Mortar Pod to equip it to Magda, sacrifice here, do 1 damage, cast her again, sacrifice her, do 1 damage. You can add loops like that, but it's not necessary. It's not necessary. I'm not going for a definitive win here because I don't suspect people are going to be able to play past every stacks piece in this list, and we can just go ahead and take a gander at our stacks list again. This definitely needs to be tweaked. It's certainly not where I want it. Like I said off the bat, I want to get these going in a direction I feel is best for the chosen commander. I think playing for these two lines is best because they're both artifacts and they're immediately tutorable with Magda. What we saw is a deficiency of treasures, unfortunately, and a lack of decent starters. Like, damn, those hands were bad. And of course, our hand size, diminishes as these turns go on, because we're playing a lot of permanents, and many of our permanents, either they rummaged and we didn't break even, or we weren't capable of utilizing them to their best effect. Like Tome of Legends there didn't work out that great because I kept getting Smuggler's Copter. And that was the safer way to tap Magda and make a treasure, right? And we're going to operate on the assumption that it's not always safe to just play out Magda and swing with her to make treasures, because you often won't have, someone to swing into. However, Idol of Oblivion would have been great. Idol of Oblivion would have been so great for the draw effect. I think there's something here. This is the route I would take it. However, I encourage you to take your Magda any which way. If you want to run the Goblin Recruiter, the Goblin Matron, the Imperial Recruiter, and you think that's a better route, I think you can try that. There's a lot of creature utilities we're missing here. Things I like Goblin Engineer, Goblin Welder, bearing in mind that Engineer himself can only put in a 3 CMC or under, and a lot of the combo pieces that we want, the Smokestacks, the Clock of Omens, Possessed Portal, the top ones are 4 and up, right? I think it wouldn't be bad to add, it's going to sound weird, Sword of Fire and Ice. Like, we need more draw, we need more removal. Token generation is key with Luca. I might even take Luca out. I'm so displeased with Luca. But at any rate, there's something there. Magda is certainly a great legendary from the set, and obviously we're only going to see more cards from the set that support treasure tokens. And also, why the hell is it treasure and not gold? I feel like dragons, gold, dwarves, they all care more about gold, and gold is a pre-established type of token in the game already. They've just made Dockside Extortionist very good, is what I'm saying. And obviously Magda in the 99 with Dockside, also really good. People power out strategies that rely on Dockside, so of course you can manipulate Magda in the 99. So far as the commander herself, I think there's certainly a lot of potential there. We've only explored a little bit of it in these last 2 hours, but at this point, this is where I'm going to close out the video. Thank you all for joining me on this. I really appreciate you sticking with me and working through different play lines with me. Obviously correcting the Luca play. We were so close. Luca is getting removed. If I decide to tweak this any further, Luca's going to get removed, but I would love to see your list. Obviously, I'm going to leave the tapped out list that we just created in the video itself in a pinned comment. So if you want to take this list and tweak it, do so. I'll leave this all there for you to take a look at. But thank you for joining me on this live stream. At the end of this, I want to thank all of my Patreon members as per usual. So with our credits, we can talk this one out. Magda is definitely an interesting build. I think there's plenty of ways to take this. I think there's definitely an argument to go a dragon route, as the dragons are excellent payoffs. We've got tons of those already. Hopefully we'll get more utilities that work with treasures, manipulate treasures, and benefit Magda to put more treasures down, because we want to start leveraging her tutor effect immediately. So getting Dockside out, honestly, is the most important part of this list, like many strategies that rely on Dockside, unfortunately. But red lacks the tutors to get there efficiently, sadly. However, still hope for Magda. I think that this is a good start for the deck, but there's certainly more we can do for her. Now, so far as additional legendaries that get spoiled from this set, if there's anything of interest that I'm personally wanting to brew, of course, expect another cold brew from me. But until then, my name is Patrick Marlette, and happy brewing, babies.